Well, hello there trainers, greetings, KuroBlitz here, welcome back to another video. Today, the topic that I have to present, it's something very interesting, which is, what would I do if I was to make a Pokemon video game? I have done this before with Legends Kanto, which you can see in the link in the description down below. However, instead of going to the past, let's focus a little bit more on the future of the region after 30 years since its debut. And with that, going for a more traditional Pokemon video game, but also more like a present feeling, because at least to me, the biggest problem with Kanto is that it's not really expanded upon every single time that we visit the region, and that is what I would like to talk about today. This is basically my idea for a Pokemon Red 2 and Pokemon Green 2. This would take place after the events of Johto and before Unova. So this would basically be a midquel. I always like to headcanon that from Gen 2 to Gen 5 it's an 8-year time jump, so this would be like 4 years in the middle, right? It would be basically 2 years after Gale of Darkness and 7 years after Colosseum, so there's that. Just to basically have a reference point. And hello once again. I feel like when it comes to, I always like doing this presentation style. I feel like when it comes to, making these Pokemon games, if you want to do a Kanto game, you cannot start in Pallet Town. Like, Pallet Town is like milked. I feel like what they should do is start in Cinnabar Island and repurpose those old mansion and the lab, and the one that would give you the starter Pokemon, it would be, Professor Oak's granddaughter, which would be Daisy, Nanami-chan. In Cinnabar Island now, it has fertile soil after the volcanic eruption. And with that, Pokemon from the Sevi Islands of the Johto and Hoenn species, they would migrate to this, island. And the island would now create new routes, being, Route 49 and 50. And this is where you would, start. You would start in Cinnabar Island, and you would have, like, your rival, which would be like Mark or Mint, depending on who you pick. These are, the characters from the TCG Game Boy video game, and you would have like 2 battles with them before you even leave the island to actually go on your gym challenge. In the first battle, you would battle the starter that's, that you are weak against. So if you pick, Bulbasaur, you'll battle Charmander. In the second battle, the rival, they would have an Alola Rattata and a Magnemite, and to avoid Pallet Town in its entirety, you would basically get a boat, like Mr. Briny style, to the east, and so therefore you would go to the Seafoam Islands to fight the first gym leader, which would be Jack. However, Jack, in the Seafoam Islands, he would bestow you the badge, but he would not be a fire-type gym leader like Blaine. Jack would be an Ice-type gym leader, and the Pokemon that he would battle here, they would be Seal and Jinx, which are, native to these islands. After you defeat Jack, you would basically get, a beacon, a passport to try to find the legendary beasts of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. They are not in their local places that they usually are in Kanto. They are, roaming all over the place, because the Seafoam Islands, Victory Road, and Power Plant, they are their nesting spots. In this game, that's not going to be the case. The facilities will be important, but the birds will not be there. They're going to be, an actual challenge and a legend to find. After Seafoam Islands and getting your first badge from Jack, you would get your second one from Janine in Fuchsia City. You would continue on going to the east. However, to differentiate more of her from her father, who's an expert in Poison-type Pokemon, Janine realizes that maybe for some trainers she needs to expand her horizons a little bit, and she would use a team of Bug-type Pokemon. I want to give her a Pineco, a Yanma, and a Venonat. I think it's very important. Also, it kinda still gives her the Venomoth motif, but for more upcoming challengers, I feel like this is, more appropriate. And bugs and the Safari Zone, they do still feel, a little bit more important. And with that, you have like 2 badges on your hand during this playthrough. In the Safari Zone, this would be the place where you would first find Team Rocket. You would find Team Rocket in the Safari Zone. They are disrupting the ecosystem, trying to find, you know, very powerful Pokemon, mainly Dragonites and Victreebels, because now they are able to Mega Evolve. It would be very interesting. As for the Grunts, this would be like, you know, a group of misfits. I don't see it being a leader for the time being. There will be no Archer, there will be no Giovanni, but, you know, Team Rocket still wants to keep going. They don't go away. Like, they just don't go away. Also for branding's sakes, as for the Pokemon that the Grunts would have, I feel like there needs to be a myriad of Pokemon from Johto and Kanto. The ones that I have here, it's like Spearow, Murkrow, Sneasel, Houndour, Slugma, Ekans, Grimer, Koffing, Natu, Paris, Chinchou, Fampi, Teddiursa, Jigglypuff, Snubbull, and Pinsir. I feel like these are like amazing variety for, you know, Team Rocket, besides your regular Rattata and Zubat, right? Like, it's Team Rocket. Why should they be bound to a type or 2 to 3? It's ridiculous. After that, you would go to the west, you would go to the Cycling Road, and then you fight your rival again for a 3rd time. Their starter is now evolved in the middle stage. They also evolved the Alolan Rattata into Alolan Raticate. They still keep the Magnemite, however, they have a new addition on the team, that being, you know, Drowsy. And after you continue on your way through the Cycling Road, because after defeating the Team Rocket Grunts in the Safari, the Warden gives, you know, a voucher for a bike, and then in the gate of the Cycling Road you do get the bike. You don't need to go to Cerulean City. You do go to Celadon after the fact, and that's where you fight Erika as your 3rd gym leader. And as Erika, she would have, you know, Sunflora, Executor, and Gloom. I want to show Hoenn and Unova Pokemon in this, you know, because it's Japan, and even Sinnoh Pokemon, like, it's Japan. Like, Kanto needs more beyond the 151 first Pokemon here. As for Gloom, you do rematch the gym leaders later on. Depending on your version, if it's Pokemon Red 2, Gloom will become a Vileplume. If it's Pokemon Green 2, Gloom will become a Bellossom. I just want to point that out. After that, you don't go to Saffron City immediately. You have to go to the underground path, and that's going to be like another encounter that you are going to have with Team Rocket. And there's going to be like, you know, alleys and fight clubs and all of that in the underground path now. Also mainly because this is going to be like the spiritual Route 7, because I would like to imagine that in a future Kanto, there would be no Route 7 anymore. Like, Saffron and Celadon became like one giant city in some way, shape, or form. And given how in the Unova games you do fight the gym leaders in, you know, the tournament, that's for the advanced timeline. This is a sequel for the classic one from Game Boy and Game Boy Color era. Why is Team Rocket here? Because Entei Entei is here. They are trying to, you know, chase Pokemon for, you know, their profit and gain, and they saw like an Entei, you know, being in the underground path, like lighting the way in the darkness. I think, you know, it would just be like a cool homage to, you know, Green City with the Grimer and the Muck. It would be very interesting to, you know, see trainers like hooligans and the cue balls and all of that trying to, you know, chase this Pokemon. So there you have it. I feel like you need to utilize like this, besides, you know, just going from one place of the other, because this is basically a bunker, right? I feel like, you know, having like a legendary like roaming in the bunker, it would be like a cool quip in terms of storytelling. And after going under Saffron City, you would arrive to, you know, Lavender Town, and this is where you would fight, you know, your 4th gym leader, which is, you know, Roland, the rival in Pokemon TCG. However, he is going to be the one to bestow the badge that Sabrina bestowed, and the one that, you know, Kyo, the martial artist from, you know, the Saffron Dojo bestowed after. So generations passed, but now the gym is in Lavender Town. And Roland is going to give you a battle with a Alolan Marowak, Annihilate, and Mischievous. This is going to be like your midpoint. This is going to be, your training montage for, like, for the 4th batch. So, continuing on, there is still going to be some things to deal with, because, there is no Pokemon Tower anymore. There is a Radio Tower. You are going to meet like a Rocket Grunt there, and it's only going to be one. There is no team, there is no whatever, and that's when you realize that this guy is the bodyguard for Giovanni. Giovanni is still in the game, but not in an antagonistic way, but he has more so as a force to make all of the Rocket Grunts like just go away. He doesn't want to deal with this anymore. He didn't want to deal with it with Johto. That's why in the original timeline he never returned, because there's no Celebi event. And I feel like this is very important to, try to make an ally with Giovanni to, put a stop to the evil that he started. But he wants to test your muscle to prove that you are actually worth it. So he's going to battle you. Mid-game, you are going to battle Giovanni, like in the actual games, but not in Silphco, and certainly not in the Rocket Casino. You are going to battle Giovanni with a team of, Cloyster, Honchkrow, and Beedrill. And after you battle him, you do hear a ruckus up north in the power plant. They are in the power plant, and this is why Giovanni was in the radio tower of Lavender, to try to get like signals of these grunts' misdeeds. And they are in the power plant because there is another electric legendary habitant there, given how Zapdos is now migrating. That is Raikou. Raikou is in the power plant. You do have, like, to help Raikou to, flee from all of these grunts. And after you do, you are able to, explore the local vicinity that is Rock Tunnel. And with that, you have like your 4th rival battle against, the rival, being Mark or Mint. And in this battle, the starter is still in the middle stage. They evolved their Magnemite into Magneton, and they acquired a Tyrogue. After all of this, though, you could, as a side quest, you could meet Daisy Oak in the Diglett Cave. You don't go to Cerulean City immediately after Rock Tunnel. There are some new labyrinths that connect the Rock Tunnel with the Diglett's Cave, similar how the Clay Tunnel deals with the Relic Passage in Black and White too. And Daisy is here to see Pokemon, and you do get like an optional battle with her, and it's going to be like a double battle. It's going to be like a VGC 4v4. Daisy is going to utilize Lapras, Butterfree, Snorlax, and Machamp, that are Pokemon able to Gigantamax. They are not going to do that in this game, but it's just a cool tie-in. After you exit Diglett's Cave, because you basically chase Team Rocket out of the power plant, you go to the Rock Tunnel, and you somehow end up here, you are going to, fight the Vermilion City gym leader. And this guy, it's going to be, it's another trainer from the TCG. I don't recall his name, I'm so sorry. I don't even have it in the notes, and I'm not going to pause the video to find it out. Leave it in the comments. He is going to be the game version of Viscas instead of the anime version, and he's going to be the one that, Surge trusted with the gym in Vermilion. However, given the Diglett Tunnel, he's going to optimize his team to be ground types. He's going to be better than Surge. The Pokemon that, this guy is going to use are Alolan Ductrio, Gligar, Sandslash, and Nidoqueen. I consider Nidoking, depending on if you are a guy or a girl playing, or depending on the version, but I feel like this one needs a little bit more love. And it's also very interesting that, this guy from the army has a Nidoqueen as his ace. I think it would be very, very cool. Also, you can learn Surf, so in Vermilion, that's like a big, big plus. After that, you do go to the north, but, however, there is a new place to explore. There is the Seagallop Bay. It's going to be like, you know, Vermilion City. This is where you get like the boat to go to the Sevi Islands. But in this bay, also like an homage to, you know, Bill's Lighthouse in the anime, you do get to battle, you know, the rival for a 5th time. And here the starters still are in their middle stages. However, did I repeat the team? Oh no, they evolved Hypno. I was so confused right now. They evolved Drowsy to Hypno. That is the difference. I'm so sorry. They still have Tyrogue though. Maybe this was like an additional battle that I was putting in. I'm not quite sure right now. Anyways, going back to the north, you do Remy, Giovanni, and his grunt, and they are in the daycare center. They want to make sure that, you know, Team Rocket doesn't steal Pokemon X from here. And they are going to test your muscle again after that 4v4 with, you know, Daisy and with, you know, the Surge replacement. He's going to test you in a 5v5. In addition to Cloyster, Hunchcrow, and Beedrill, he has a regular Dugtrio and an Aggron. These are Pokemon that he has in the manga. So there's like a cool tie-in to adventures. Continuing on your adventure, you do go to Cerulean City and you are going to, you know, battle Misty for your 6th gym. And Misty here is going to have Seadra, Quagsire, Poliwrath, and Octillery. So 2 Kantomon, 2 Johtomon, and unlike her anime version that has Politoed, here she is going to have Poliwrath. And continuing on your adventure, you are going to, you know, see more Rocket Grunts in the Nugget Bridge. And given how Cerulean Scape is nearby, you can guess what Pokemon they are going to find here. They are going to find Suicune. You are going to help Suicune out in your adventure, and after that you basically get access to Bill's cottage, where you are going to fight the rival for a 6th time. And now they have their starter fully evolved, and they also evolved their Tyrogue into a Hitmontop. I think this is, you know, very instrumental for, you know, all of your adventure. However, you don't go to Mount Moon immediately. Instead, you are basically given a flying ride to Pewter City. You do go to Pewter City and you do fight Brock there, and you basically go to a visit in the museum, and with that, the Pokemon that Brock is going to use against you is going to be Corsola, Macargo, Sudowoodo, and Alolan Golem. Brock wants to really use the rock type to their fullest. He still has Steelix, he's just more of a personal team Pokemon rather than, you know, a gym leader Pokemon. You do fight Steelix in the rematches. I want to remember this. There are gym leader rematches in this Red 2, Green 2 game. And just like many other Pokemon game, after you obtain 7 badges, there is a big crisis going, and that is where you rendezvous to Mount Moon. And you see, you know, more Rocket Grunts there. And this is, you know, where basically it kinda all ends, because after chasing the legendary beasts, they are going to have to fight a 4th feline. That being Mewtwo. They are going to fight Mewtwo. Because Mewtwo lived in Cerulean Cave, it's nearby Mount Moon, and you have fossil Pokemon in Mount Moon, and that is heavily connected to Mew. I also just like that the finale for this version of Team Rocket is where it all started. This is where we first meet them in the first games. It's in Mount Moon. The plot twist is that they were chasing the legendary beasts because the legendary beasts were not that. They were Mew in the skies. He was using Transform. If you want to headcanon a story plot point for this game, the fact that you start in Cinnabar Island, it's even more emblematic because, you know, that's where Mewtwo was created, right? Maybe you can see Mew, like, you know, lurking like in the bushes, like sensing you while you are exploring Cinnabar as, like, you know, a test trial before you actually go on your journey. I just think it's very emblematic because you, the trainer, are the one making the adventure. After this, though, you do go to Viridian Forest and you do meet Giovanni once more and his grunt. And he thanks you for stopping Team Rocket. He recalls this place heavenly for some reason, that being Manga Giovanni was born here, and you know, he was healed by Celebi, and even though Celebi is not present here in this timeline, you could maybe unlock a mystery gift event to have Celebi in Viridian Forest instead of, you know, the Elix one in Johto. Giovanni wants to thank you for your efforts, and he wants to, you know, give you like one final battle before you fight the final gym leader that's now presiding in his gym. Giovanni is going to go full throttle. He's going to 6v6 you. You haven't even have a 5v5 yet. That's going to be with the Viridian gym leader. He's going to 6v6 you. He's going to have both Hitmons, because they are their bodyguards in the Clefairy manga. He's going to have Wobbuffet, because as a nod to the anime Team Rocket. Electrode, because of the Mahogany, you know, hideout. He's going to have the starter that's weak to yours, so he still has some villainy. He kinda persuaded Daisy to give him the starter that you didn't got. Also, the rival gets Tyrogue, and it's a baby Pokemon, so Giovanni gets the other two, and he gets a Wobbuffet from a Wynot that he may have not raised from, you know, an egg that he also obtained at the daycare. And the Aggron that was not originally on his team, it's now on its team, and it's Mega Evolved. Yeah, kind of, you know, weird to see, you know, Giovanni as your secondary rival, isn't it? It's very weird now, isn't it? But after Viridian Forest, we need to go to Viridian City. And Silver is there. Not Blue Oak, not Blue Oak, it's Silver. Silver is the one that's there. And given how in the manga Giovanni wanted to get the legendary birds to create Zapmal Kuno, and given how the Earth badge is called the Green badge and it looks more like a feather than, you know, a Sakaki leaf, I want to give Silver a team of flying type Pokemon. So this is what I'm going to pitch for him. He's going to have Pidgeot, the ace of Blue Oak, Crobat, the one that he actually got, Scyther, because I think it's cool. I just think Scyther is cool. Aerodactyl, that you helped rescue an old Ember from the Museum of Pewter, and maybe also another one in Mount Moon, who knows. And Togekiss. He basically gets his own version of the Togepi egg, like the Johto protagonist. And I think this is cool. Like, this is like a cool team of 5. You get, you know, Kanto that evolves into Johto. You get like Johto, Sinnoh, Kanto, and another Kanto. Like, again, this is Silver's personal. This is not Silver's personal team. You do fight that in the rematch. And this is like his gym leader team. And before you go to the league, you need to go to Victory Road. You need to go to Victory Road, and with that you have like your rival battle for the 7th time, and I do believe this is like the same amount that you battle the original rival in, you know, red, green, blue, and yellow. So in Victory Road it feels fitting because it's not in the league and it's not on Route 23. It's actually after you show all of your badges. And the Pokemon that Mark or Mint are going to have, they are going to be the starter fully evolved, and their other Pokemon are going to be Hitmontop, Magneton, Alolan Raticate, Hypno, and Sylveon. They do get an Eevee that you never see, and now they are a Sylveon. And going to the league, you do meet Giovanni at the entrance on the league. He's wishing you the best of luck, and if you ever want to rematch him, he will always be at the gates of Indigo Plateau. Very similar to how you battle Red in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Speaking of Red though, the league is now split into two. Indigo Plateau is the one now presiding the Kanto League. Mount Silver presides the Johto League. It's basically like in the anime. Now you are only fighting the Kanto Elite Four and the Kanto Champion, who are Blaine, Surge, Koga, Bruno, and Red. This is why you fight Jack instead of Blaine. This is why that other guy replaced Surge. Oh my god, I will never remember the name. I think it's Terry? Maybe it's Terry? Terra, Ground? Maybe it's Terry. I'm not quite... I don't recall exactly. But yeah, if you look at the types of the gym leaders, I did this on purpose. It's Ice, Bug, Grass, Ghost, Ground, Water, Rock, and Flying. Because the Elite Four are going to be Fire, Electric, Poison, and Fighting. And then, you know, Red returned as the champion. This game is very Kanto coded, but there are not really much Kanto characters. Like Professor Oak is not in this adventure. Lance is not in this adventure. Agatha and Lorelei never return, and you will never see Will or Karen. Like, this is very much, you know, Kanto focused, but with a new coat of paint. This is what I want to talk about, the gym leader rematches. So, if I was to code this video game, this is what I would do. This would be like the Lola champion title defense. The league is not hierarchical, it's spread out. The Elite Four are spread out. They re-established that formula now. So, what I think it would be very cool, it would be in the days that end with 1, you rematch the first gym leader. So you rematch Jack. And this would go for the days that end with 2, 3 until 8. So the 8th gym leader is Silver. If you are to do a rematch in the league on the 18th or the 28th, you always get Silver. In the days that end with 9, you would always rematch Red, the original champion. On the days that end with 0, and on the 31st of every month, so basically 7 times a year, the one that you are defending your Kanto League champion title against, it's Brandon and May from the Hoenn games, the original Hoenn games, depending on the version. No, actually scratch that, depending on your gender, not version, gender. If you play as Mark, you need to defend your title against Brandon. If you play as Mint, you need to defend your title against May on every 10th, 20th, 30th, and 31st day of the month. So, good luck. And given how this is in the classic timeline, they never went to Hoenn. Or maybe they did, the events are flimsy. Or they could just have done the Johto run and now they are, you know, trying to get their lick back here in Kanto. But it's a cool tie-in to, you know, the fact that Gen 1 and Gen 3 were always, you know, sister regions during the Fire Red and Leaf Green days. And given how this is basically Red 2 and Green 2, I really liked it. I really liked this nod a lot. I was considering Professor Oak though, for like the 31st. I'm not gonna hold you on that. If you want to believe that, so be it. It's going to be your headcanon, your adventure. But now that the adventure has ended though, and speaking of Professor Oak, we need to go to the post-game. We need to tackle a post-game, right? So, the post-game would be, you would visit Pallet Town because of, you know, Daisy, and depending again on your gender, you would be battling either Blue or Leaf. They would always have the same team because they would be the normal type expert of, you know, this generation. Their team would be Tauros, Dodrio, Firo, Raticate, Persian, and Mega Kangaskhan. What you have to do more in this post-game? I'm glad you asked. Maybe you could go to the Sevi Islands as DLC, not main campaign, maybe as DLC. I didn't put the Seagallop Bay there for no reason, I just don't know what to properly do, so I'm going to leave that for your imagination. Leave it in the comments. There are 2 more cities to explore. Have you noticed how I've left routes 12 to 15 unexplored? This is why. It always irked me, again, every time we go to Kanto, it's the same Kanto. When we return to Unova, in the sequel, there were more cities to explore. In uncharted parts of the map that we had no access to, sure. However, this is Kanto. It's being industrialized. It would make a lot of sense for not all people to vibe with that and to create their own little communities in other places, you know, around. I would even like to argue that Bill could make like a scientist city where his cottage is on Cerulean Cape in, you know, Route 25. So I feel like to separate all of this, I feel like there should be 2 more cities to explore in Kanto. Like, because more people would come here and more people from the big cities, they would want to, you know, relocate out of that. And I feel like a city that borders Route 12 and another one that borders Route 15, and they would have both Route 14 and 13 like in the middle, I feel like that's very important. So the first city that you will explore in the post-game, it will be Mauve City, named after a color. So you would meet these guys. Who are these guys? These guys are Courtney. I know her name is Courtney because of the other girl from Team Magma. The other guy, I don't recall, it's another TCG gym leader. I only recalled her and Jack. I should have had notes, I'm so sorry. Leave in the comments down below. But you can see that the guys are, you know, colored red, green, blue, and yellow. These guys, again, depending on your gender, it could be the same or not. I'm gonna leave the gender thing up to you when it comes to battling Brandon and May, Leaf and Blue, and even Courtney and this dude. I'm gonna leave it if it's the same one or if it's the opposite one. I'll leave it to you, the player. This is the Rocket Grunt that was being Giovanni's bodyguard. And they are now unmasked, and they are, you know, basically in this place. And you do get, like, to, you know, have optional battle against them. Yeah, you get to have optional battle against, you know, Giovanni's bodyguard, himself, and his son. Kinda crazy. This is like, you know, having like a Rocket admin becoming, you know, a very important character. The Pokemon that they would have, though, they would not be Kanto Pokemon. This because we are in the post-game territory, I feel like more comfortable exploring other options. One of them would have Espeon, Steelix, and Electivire. The other one would have Umbreon, Scizor, and Magmortar. The consistent 3 that they would have, it would be Tangrowth, Rhyperior, and Porygon Z. Because of, you know, learning Move Tutor with Ancient Power, a Rhydon evolution that's like Giovanni's Ace, and like the Electric Cybernetic Pokemon. I think like Silphco nods to the original Team Rocket. I think it's very, very cool. I just think it's very, very cool. As for the other post-game town, there will be Cerise Town. And here, this is where you would, you know, have your rematches with, you know, your rival. The rival moved here, and they are now trying to make the city a better place. Because it's a new place. It's going to be like a new settlement. These are like new settlements that, you know, are being built while you are playing the game. And during your adventure here, in the first rematch, you do battle their starters and their team, and their Magneton finally evolved into a Magnezone. And in the second one, you do fight the same team, but the starter that they chose are now Mega Evolved. After a certain amount of times, when you go back to Giovanni, he would, you know, use, depending on the day, he would use also the Mega Evolved version of the starter that you didn't pick. I think it would be very interesting to see all of that. However, there is one place that we haven't tackled yet, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, Saffron City. Now, if you guys go to the cutting room floor, you have read all of this beta thing about Kanto. There was going to be like an island that you would access with, you know, SSN. And the thing is, I would like to very much believe that wherever that island is located, it was probably the inspiration for, you know, Acapulco and all of that thing with, you know, Tentacruel and the Island of Giant Pokemon and the Gyarados from the anime, and even the Ghastlies, like the summer arc, when Ash leaves Butterfree, right? I always imagined that. And given its location, you could hop on a boat on SSN to that, and then to Celadon, and then go to Fuchsia and Cinnabar. You would never have to go to Lavender Town, really. Rock Tunnel and all of these routes that I've told about, in where I placed these new two cities, routes 12 to 15, they would basically be, you know, just grinding territories with random NPCs. So, again, in the cutting room floor, Saffron City was going to be the place for the league. It was going to be in the capital. Indigo Plateau was going to be the hideout for Team Rocket, where you finally fight them. Because the first gym leader was not going to be Giovanni, it was going to be Yujiro. So it's interesting, and I want to hearken that. I want to echo that with, you know, making Saffron City this big capital metropolis, and, you know, have these tournaments there. And there's going to be like a giant dome, and after a specific amount of wins against the Kanto Elite Four and Champion, you would fight the Johto Elite Four and Champion. They hopped on the magnet train from Goldenrod to here, and now they are going to face you in a tournament, and you are going to have to, you know, fight them. And the Johto Elite Four are now, as you see it in the picture, they are Jasmine, Whitney, Sabrina, Karen, and Chris. So the champions are Red and Chris, the Kanto guy and the Johto girl. After you defeat the Johto Elite Four 21 times and then 49 times as a win streak of battles, you would get to fight Wes and Michael with Ho-Oh and Lugia. Because this happens after their games too. And I think it will be a cool nod. Yeah, I like a great... Like, this is optional super bosses, and then you get optional super bosses on top of that. And you don't really have to go to Johto. Johto comes to you. The regions should be independent. I always believe that Johto needs a game without Kanto, and I feel like Kanto bringing elements from the future without, you know, doing the future properly, it would be cool and fresh. But yeah, this is just, you know, my idea of what I would do if I was in charge of, you know, a Pokemon Red 2 and Green 2 version games. So there you have it, trainers. Thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate all of your support and engagement. Continue to do so by leaving a like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Really much appreciated. I will see you another time. Thank you so much for watching. KuroBlitz out.